What's up, everybody? PG Braun here, president of Blackstone Labs, here with Flex Wheeler and Keone Pearson, and we're outside of Brazelia Med Spa. This is a very cool place that I found recently. I'm going to start doing more videos here. The doctor here is very forward-thinking. She offers a ton of stuff that we're going to talk about inside, but one of the basic things that she will do is blood work. So, you're probably wondering, well, why are these guys here today? They can do this anywhere.
Yeah.
So when Flex first called me, he told me about how passionate he was to take this guy to the next level, right? And I said, yeah, he's great. I think that he will go to the next level. But what really excited him was that Keone told him that he was drug-free. And I said, no way. But you said that you had no reason to lie.
No reason to lie. And when we sat down and we talked, me and Keone, I didn't believe him either. You know, it's hard to believe, even though, you know, people know who my brother is, Robert, and he's drug-free, but it's just with the muscle he had, you know, he turned pro and everything and how good he looked. It was hard to believe. And he said, well, coach, I'll prove it to you. And I go, well, great, because all my athletes take blood work, you know. So normally when I say that, a person would kind of fringe, you know, and he goes, okay, there's no problem. So here we are. We're going to find out now.
Now, I've not seen anything public about this. So this is not something you really discuss with people,
right,
other than people in your corner like Flex.
Right.
Now, when I said, hey, I would love to get your blood work done, were you nervous at all?
No.
No, because this is a good thing for you because you're just telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't remember last time I got my blood work done.
Well, it's good because no matter what, we'll see how healthy he is anyway.
Yeah.
I always think that...
I'm really curious to see what some of his markers are.
Me too, especially, IGF-1, things like that. There are
Yeah.
certain people out there, and Flex is one of them, that will be genetically superior in certain areas. I have seen some people with just totally natural high levels of IGF-1. That'll change your physique and the way that you can be as a bodybuilder. I've also seen people with genetically very low levels of testosterone, and those are the people that at young ages need to be on HRT. I've seen 24-year-old guys like that. So we're going to go in there now, we're going to meet the doctor, we're going to get his blood work done, and we'll show you guys the results when it happens, but this is going to be a very, very big deal because no one has ever done this. And in this sport, he would essentially be one of one at this point. So he'll be the only one that's saying that they're natural, proving that they're natural, and actually competing natural in this organization. So this is a piece of history that we're about to make right now. So we'll go inside and get it done. I'm gonna get some glutathione, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
you've seen me do that before.
Me too.
Flex this too.
I'm gonna try it.
All right, guys. So I just came inside. This is Dr. Brazelia, and she has a lot to offer in here. So rather than do what I always do and just do all the talking, I'm gonna let her explain what she does.
Sure. Welcome everyone to Brazelia Integrative Anti-Aging Center. We are a fully integrative wellness center. Within the practice, we have MDs on staff, we have nurse practitioners, physician assistants, massage therapists, estheticians, acupuncturists, and I'm very pleased to be at this location for 12 years, offering many services such as IV therapy, acupuncture, massage, as we just mentioned. We do all types of different lab draws here. We do glutathione push. We also are a medical marijuana treatment center. We have our beautiful line of CBD. Hemp bill just got passed.
Very big deal, guys. So
very
expect
excited
to see
about
more
that.
videos from that because I've had a passion for this for a couple years now. I had CBD in a product in one of my other LLCs that I had to remove because of this, and I'm interested in doing a lot with CBD. So there's a very good chance that, well, I don't want to say there's a very good chance. There is a chance that Blackstone Labs will be doing more with CBD. But regardless, I'll be educating you with the doctor on CBD. So stay tuned for extra videos on that because the benefits of CBD are endless.
Amazing. We call it a homeostatic wellness regulator, and it's really making a big difference with everyone. Our latest and greatest is now focusing on women's health. We do a lot of hormone therapy here, from testosterone therapy to creams. So we do check labs to make sure that the levels are within the normal range where they need to be. Again, the latest and the greatest, the women's health, where we're calling it the designer vagina. But it's a big deal because it's really giving back to women where there's insecurities, and it's making a big deal with that. Again, we offer so much here. We love what we do. We have a full staff, and we're just thankful now to have these amazing gentlemen here from the sports arena, and it's just a pleasure to have them here.
Yeah, so obviously you guys watched the intro already, you know why we're here. So Keone will be having his blood done, and we'll be showing you guys the results after we get that. I'm going to be here for designer vagina, so I'll be out for a little while. Not sure how long that's going to take.
Right.
And Flex is going to get some glutathione. I may get some glutathione too. You guys know that I'm a big glutathione advocate. I think this place is beautiful, so you're gonna see me here a lot, guys. It's right around the corner from Ultimate Cryotherapy, so if you're working out down here up here, if you're going to the cryotherapy place, it's very, very efficient. So you'll see me here all the time. You might come in for a treatment and you might run into me here. So I encourage you guys to come check the place out, look into the different services. If you have any questions, you can always DM me or email me. I prefer emails, but none of you guys ever do that. So without further ado, we're gonna get in there and we'll have the beautiful staff over here as well.
I'd like to introduce my staff. This is my nurse practitioner, Lonnie, my gorgeous. She's the one who does all the testosterone pellets and all the women vaginal rejuvenation. Yes. Here's my beautiful medical esthetician, Carolina. She's the one who really does all the microneedling, all the aesthetics. So we have a full line. Again, we have massage therapists, acupuncturists here. We do quite a bit here. I welcome everyone to come in for a complimentary consultation. Come in, check us out, feel us out, and I'm sure you'll be happy.
We have a lot here, guys. It's pretty amazing. So I highly encourage you to come at least check out what they have to offer. So let's get in there and get this guy's blood work done so we can ship him off to the gym. I'll be doing my glutathione, like I said, and expect more from us. And that's it.
That arm, perfect. Okay, you can relax the arm. Man, can I get that tourniquet over this arm? You got right? That's a big muscle.
I don't work out.
No, not at all.
I don't.
That's just amazing.
Get the bicep peak too, bro. Get the bicep peak. There you go. Is this gonna hurt that bad?
Nah, no pinch. Promise.
Oh, okay. I got tattoos, so is it worse than tattoo?
No, tattoos are worse for sure.
Oh, really?
Tattoos hurt.
That blood.
We're gonna take all your blood. We're gonna freeze it. We may use it for fertility. You may have some babies going. No, I'm just teasing.
So when does like the test?
This will be back in about 1 week's time.
Okay. I thought I was gonna work out and I got my blood work done. I like
Here.
just the top part.
Yeah, just the top part, and then I need you to just sign that one. That's it. So just like your
So just
demographics.
basic stuff.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's your
You look.
hydrated. That's a good thing.
See how clear. I always have to stay hydrated.
I have just put out the video where we did the podcast discussing that Keone has been lifetime drug-free. And when he came down here, Flex and I put him on the spot. We didn't give him any warning. We said, we're going to take you and get your blood work and your urine work done. And so we brought him to Dr. Brazelia, because I have everybody in the office pretty much going to the doctor now. And here are the results. So we're going to go over of his blood and urine work. I will give my opinions, the doctor will give her opinions, and you guys can decide if you want to believe the kid from there. But we're here to actually show you some actual lab data to base it on.
Good morning. Pleasure being here with PJ Braun. I had the pleasure of meeting Keone Pearson, 23-year-old, amazing gentleman. Body is amazing, hence, you know, the birth of having him come here and do some lab work to see if he really is the real deal. We did draw 2 sets of labs on him. We did True Health Diagnostics, which is a very complete lab showing his current physiology. And we also did a toxicology report. We'll get started with that, and we'll just go back and forth, PJ basically going over his labs. With this particular lab, it's pretty extensive, and I like it because it gives me the optimal range. And that's very important for a patient, because typically when you go to a doctor's office, you have a range, and if you're at the lower end of the range, but you're in that range, the doctor will say, oh, you're fine, move on. It's not the case sometimes. You need to be at optimal performance. So this is why I use this lab, because this particular lab can show me exactly what your optimal performance, and it's color coded, so it's very easy for the patients to read. With respect to this lab, we did do his lipids, his lipoprotein particles. We did some inflammatory markers here. We did some myocardial stress markers, some genetics, which are very, very important. We did, of course, a full metabolic profile. We also did a full kidney, a renal profile. We also did some digestive labs just to see if there were any issues with respect to digestion. Of course, we did a glycemic control, so we did his entire blood sugar panel, even checking into the beta cell function just to make sure all of that was functioning properly. Again, we did on the last part of it, electrolytes, of course, his liver enzymes. We checked full thyroid, male hormones, which are very, very important, which we'll go through it. We did some growth hormone, as well as some vitamins, and your white and red blood cells along with the differential. So based on all of those different parameters, his total cholesterol, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cholesterol, which I was very happy to see. We also checked genetic markers for cholesterol to see if he's genetically predisposed to having higher cholesterol, and he does not have that marker. Obviously, him being on a very clean diet, I can see here based on the range that he's in a perfect range within the lipoprotein particle structure. We also did some inflammation markers. Those were also well within the optimal range, so I was very happy to see that. Now, we know that inflammation comes in many different ways in the body. Obviously, you know, at different times of the day, his inflammatory marker may be a little bit higher due to the nature of the rigorous exercise, but with respect to this lab, looking at CRP, it was well within the normal range, so very happy about that.
One thing that I look at for anybody that I'm working with, if I can interject for a minute, is when I go to the cholesterol, I like to see the ratio, because unfortunately with most pre-contest bodybuilders, the drugs that are being used will really throw the ratio of HDL to LDL off a lot. So they might not have a bad total number, but the ratio may be really, really off. And you know, his being so good, to me, that's the first sign of, okay, well, he definitely hasn't taken anything. Typically, DHT derivatives will throw those numbers off. Anastrozole can throw them off. So those numbers look really good. So that was one of the first things that I looked at.
Right, and we also did the lipoprotein particles, which are really, really important, so we can see exactly what's going on within that context as well. So you have more of a definition in that arena. Going forward here, you know, his myocardial stress and structure function, those markers were beautiful. So that's another, you know, way of looking at anything that could potentially be hurting the cardiovascular system. And again, some of the genetic markers that we did check for, we also checked for MTHFR. That's a methylation process, and it's super important because it helps with neurotransmitters, it helps with detoxification, a lot of different areas of the body. And then that enzyme helps, you know, it's basically the ability to detoxify. And that one was okay, that was good there. And we also checked, you know, very important vitamin D levels, fish oils. We're checking your B vitamins. Again, B vitamins are super important for neurotransmitter processing and many other areas in the body. So thyroid was very, very good. We're going to check the entire panel in a second. We're going to go through that. His B12. B12 is very important for intrinsic factor, how he digests, his immunity, his energy. That was well within range, so that was beautiful to see. And his CoQ10. CoQ10 is, you know, where your body derives the raw energy from the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Cortisol levels having to do with the adrenals, very important when we're dealing with, you know, this arena. And his cortisol level at the time of capture was well within the normal range. Now, cortisol fluctuates throughout the entire day. So in order to capture the full day, we'd have to do, you know, different times of the day. But this one was serum only, so he was well within that range. We did a celiac profile just to see if there were any issues digestively. Completely negative there, so that was very, very nice to see. We did a full panel on glycemic control. So we did check his A1C, measurement of your blood sugars over a period of time. His blood sugar at the time he came in was very, very good. We also checked for insulin resistance. So we checked his leptin, his free fatty acids, his ferritin. all well within the optimal range. So that's important, not just the normal range, but the optimal range. We checked some beta cell function, making sure that, you know, there's not any insulin resistance going on in the body, and his C-peptide was beautiful. I mean, the kid, if I can hang these labs up, and
Truly
just like this is the wall of perfection, this would be, you know, the lab I'd put up for sure. So we're going to get into the, you know, the basis of what we're basically looking at with respect to hormones, but just going over the essential minerals in the body, really, really important: sodium, potassium, chlorine, carbon dioxide, well within the normal range, liver enzymes, and then we also checked the conjugation between the liver and the kidneys, also very, very good. Thyroid panel, TSH, T4, T3, free T3. We even checked some of the thyroid peroxidases to see if there were any underlying issues. So that's good, and we know that thyroid is important because it feeds into the hormone pathway, specifically testosterone. So now we're going into the male hormones. When we check for those, we check everything. You know, we check your DHEA. We want to check the precursors, not just the hormone themselves. And we check your, you know, the estrogen levels, your sex hormone binding globulin, your testosterone, your free testosterone, and of course, you know, we check the IGF with him, the growth hormone, and prolactin. So based on this, PJ, he's well within the normal range.
So the first thing that I looked at right away was his testosterone, which is at 754. So depending on which doctor you talk to, whether it be a doctor for normal people or it be an HRT doctor, most HRT doctors that I deal with, and I've been dealing with them for years, like to see the optimal number around 1,000.
Right.
So if he were using any kind of androgen, the number would be far higher than 754. Now, 754 is pretty much where a young 23-year-old healthy man should be.
For us, yeah.
That's a great number. Every now and then I'll get a young guy that gets his blood work done and you know, he'll be like 350, and I'm like, you know what, as young as you are, you're probably a good candidate for testosterone therapy. So his body is producing a very optimal, you know, we joke, you've heard me say this on the podcast, that, you know, no one really floats around 1,000 unless they're like a black Olympic sprinter.
Right.
You know, these are world-class athletes that are genetically gifted. So we have said that we believe he is genetically gifted. So that's a very solid number, but it's certainly within range.
Right.
Then the other thing that I look at after that is the free testosterone. So where his free testosterone is in range, and it's really more to the lower side of range, which is another thing that we would see being elevated if he was using most androgenic steroids.
Right.
So another thing is that I have tested a few people on my product, the Chosen One, which we actually haven't allowed him to use yet, and we've seen elevated free testosterone numbers with that as well. So, you know, I haven't let him use any of the pro hormones yet either. We tested his DHT. The DHT numbers are very, very important for a number of reasons, because nowadays we see a lot of different forms of cancer that may be affected because of DHT, prostate being the big one.
Right.
And so, you know, you don't want to see that number being elevated, which is also typically a sign of some androgens that you use. Winstrol can affect your DHT levels, DECA to an extent can. And so we see healthy numbers there. And really his estrogen is about as optimal as you can get. So he has just got really good blood. You know, I mean, we tested his IGF-1, right?
Yes, we did.
So here's one where people will talk a little
190.
bit. So,
So based at his age, the range is 136 to 348, and he came in at 190.
190. So one of the things that people were going to say is, oh, well, there's no test for growth hormone. And most people that are using good real growth hormone, not all, so I'm not saying this is the only way, but most of them will see higher levels of IGF-1. When you're taking in that extra GH, you're going to have some conversion there. His IGF levels are actually pretty low. So, you know, do I think that he was using growth hormone and crashed it? No. I really believe him when he said he wasn't using anything. I think these numbers are all pretty, I think, cut and dry. Now, one of the ones I thought was interesting, and you may have a theory on this, I have a theory on it, was his prolactin was a little on the high side.
Right. So when we look at prolactin, we look at a couple of different things, but Typically, for a male, that's usually, typically we're looking at prolactin for a woman, but with males, sometimes when it's high, it'll be high when they've had a strenuous exercise right before. So that can basically increase the level of the prolactin, because I don't think that he would have, high hypoprolactinemia. So I would say that it's going to be more geared towards his exercise regimen.
Which is exactly what I thought also. Going back to the beginning of his blood work, his liver enzymes were a little bit elevated as well. And so breaking it down, knowing that he's not doing anything, my theory, just like what the doctor said, was he has been training so hard. And I know that Flex is training him harder than he's ever trained. Can people do these workouts? Yes. Many people would tap out. And if you guys have been watching the videos, you can see how hard the kid goes. So we brought him in here fasted, after he had killed himself the night before.
Yes.
And I think that the results are conclusive there, that's why that number was where it is. So, when you're really killing yourself in the gym, some of these numbers are going to be skewed. You can get a considerably different reading if you took a week off of training and eating and just went in and got your blood work done. You'd see some differences.
Absolutely.
But considering what he's doing and how hard he's training, he's very, very, according to the labs, healthy.
Right. And so when any, marker's elevated, essentially we just retest because of certain conditions as the one we just discussed. So being that he's in Vegas, we'll have to get him back down and go again and retest again. And then, of course, the full panel of your red and white blood cells. Hemoglobin is super important when we're looking at any hormones. Hematocrit also super important. Mean corpuscle value. There's so many different markers that we're looking for just to make sure that the hormones are consistent with hemoglobin. You want to go over a little bit with hemoglobin?
Well, one thing that I think that you should bring up is what we talked about before this, and having your perspective as a doctor from it. I will interject with what I think from a practical standpoint, because I think a lot of people in my shoes would say, oh, let's not put this information in, but I would like you to talk about that for a second.
So when we're looking at doping with respect to athletes, there's something that's called RHEPO, and that's erythropoietin, and it's kind of like a microdosing. And it's really an artificial version of the production of red blood cells. And the goal is to oxygenate the blood, create more advancement within the body to perform much better at an optimal, even past an optimal rate. And so, unfortunately, that's what's happening today in the world of, sports, so that they can be that, amazing athlete. But it's not accepted here. So we look for that, and that's why this panel is important to make sure that those red blood cells are within the normal range. There's a whole, process that goes into it, and I know that after 48 hours, it's hard to detect that. So we can only go based on capture at that time, and he was well within the normal range. There were no highs or low. He was right dead in the center.
Yeah, and so what I want to add to that is, I have been around the use of performance enhancers in sports outside of just bodybuilding for years, for 15 years. And I've actually only come across one coach that has used EPO on any of his guys. And for the bodybuilding aspect of it, it isn't a very advanced technique that your regular competitor isn't going to get into. Right. You see EPO use with endurance athletes a lot. Lance Armstrong probably made it the most famous. There was, for years, they wanted to catch the poor guy, saying, how could he possibly be this good? How could he possibly be that much better than everybody else? And these other guys kept getting popped. The second place guy one year got popped. They would get popped all the time. And if you want to read an interesting book, there's a book called Steroid Nation that actually documents steroids in sports over the years. And you can see that EPO was introduced many years ago by cyclists in Europe first. And you don't hear a lot of talk about it. So, this is part of the test that could be considered inconclusive, but to me, I know that he's telling the truth. I believe him. These test results for everything else says that he's definitely not using testosterone or DECA or things like that. So to go through all that and be sneaking around with EPO, with all due respect to Keone, who I love, he is just way too green with this sport to be doing that. And I'm sure Flex would also say that he's never messed with anything like EPO. I haven't, and I've done quite a bit over the years, so.
Yeah, so it's just important to note that as well. And then, we did an anti-nuclear screen to see if there were any underlying inflammatory diseases. You know, those would be like lupus, Sjogren's, things of that nature. So he came out negative on that, which was very, very good. You know, PSA total 0.44, well within the normal range. So all of that looked beautiful. And we just, you know, did some vitamins. So we did the omegas, like I mentioned earlier, vitamin D, B12, CoQ10. The fish oils were a little bit on the lower range, so that's an easy fix.
Yep.
You give them a nice molecularly distilled fish oil, guys. Don't buy crap out on the market. That's just.
I would
good
assume
for
that
you.
he's probably not taking fish oils, and his diet is super low in fat, so that makes sense to me.
Right.
I know what they're doing, and that's an easy thing to fix right there anyway.
Exactly. And then basically this just gives you a commentary at the back. As I go through labs with patients, I can go through it. And for me, it's easy to go through it because I understand it. But as you go home, then you're kind of guessing, oh my gosh, what was it that she said? So we provide comments on the back. So that way you'll remember everything that we talked about. So that was that particular lab. We also did a toxicology screen test as well. And that was all negative across the board, negative all the way down. So we're looking at drugs and the metabolites. And, you know, we're looking at amphetamines, benzodiazepines, illicits, you know, the whole gamut. All of those all came back negative. Completely
And
negative.
I was dying to catch him for at least weed. I was like, I want to get this kid for weed and then put it out and blast him, but we didn't get anything.
Yeah, no, even that, yeah, he did not show up positive for cannabis, so that, unfortunately, you know.
He's a good boy. He really is.
Yeah.
And he did not know that I was going to do this. I said to Flex, I go, I want to bring him and get him drug tested. And he was like, do it. And so we said straight up, we go, hey, we're going to bring you to get your blood work done. And he goes, cool. Like, he was excited about it. We brought him the next day. And, you know, he has said to us, do you guys think that I should step up? And it's a decision that all of us will sit and really think about and talk about together. But for what he's done so far and how new he is, I myself said, please, let's just see what you can do with just training, dieting, and Blackstone Lab supplements.
Right.
Because I know my supplements are good, and you're so good genetically, let's just see what can happen. I'd love to see what could happen at the Arnold, and that's what we're doing. So no matter what, we've stayed the course on this. We have not even let him do pro-hormones. I have said maybe we'll let him use Eradicate, which would, his estrogen's already low, but it would dry him out a little bit more for the last 2 weeks. And then after that, we're going to sit down, because in order to achieve what he's trying to achieve, odds are he won't be able to do it naturally, no matter how good he is. He could be the best natural bodybuilder that we've ever seen. Ronnie Coleman turned pro natural. It's a fact. And then actually Flex Wheeler taught him how to use stuff, and then he beat Flex Wheeler and everybody else for 8 years. So that there are guys that are that good genetically. He may decide to take that step and not be able to compete in Classic anymore. He has to be 180 pounds in Classic, which is what he is now. He might be a 212 bodybuilder after that. I don't know. Guys like that usually respond really well too. He may be like a Sean Ray that was, 205 pounds at that height competing against monsters. So it's tough to say. He's only been bodybuilding for a few years. Why not just stay the course natural to see how good he could be on that stage, where odds are he'd be the only one like that. It's a cool story. And we didn't do this to talk bad about anybody. I support hormone therapy. I'm a big advocate of it. My podcast is all about hormone therapy. And I actually support, I'm not a doctor, and the last thing I do is ever diagnose anybody or suggest things based on conditions. But what I do is I give my own practical applications to 15 years of data here, and I get more blood work than probably anybody that I've ever met. I get my blood work done many times a year because I have such a fascination with this. So sure, there's a way that he could have tricked us, absolutely, or designed it where maybe he used stuff a year ago and he's clean now. I believe him. The other way around that is we'd have to get him on a polygraph test and just see if he's lying about his past. But with what he's doing right now, these numbers are pretty conclusive to me. So I really appreciate you doing this with us. And as you can see, she's very well versed in this stuff. I wasn't going to just get some random doctor. You need a specific HRT doctor to do this stuff. You know, it's so interesting to me, and that's not to talk bad about doctors at all. How many doctors that are not in this field are clueless on this stuff? It blows my mind. Because I have friends that are, you know, surgeons or, you know, doing other things, and I have a buddy who's an eye doctor. He's going to know he is when he sees this. That I looked at his blood work and I was like, oh my God, your blood work's terrible. And he was like, it is? And I'm like, you don't know about this stuff?
Goodness.
And, you know, so you want to go to a specialist like Dr. Brazelia. So thank you very much for doing this.
My pleasure. You know, and it's important that whatever medicine you're practicing, that you understand it and you do it well. So, yeah, we're an integrative wellness facility, so we do encompass quite a bit of different services as well as practitioners here, but nonetheless, they are all versed and very educated in whatever it is that they do here in my practice. So
And what is
proud of that.
what is the best way for them to contact you if they're interested in your services?
So our phone number, we're Brazelia Integrative Anti-Aging Center, and our phone number is 561-353-2265, and our website is BrazeliaMedSpa.com, and that's BRAZELIA medspa.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Such a pleasure.
We've said it all.
Alrighty,
Peace out,
bye-bye
guys.
now.